Tonight, you are about to spend several hours in one of the most famous places in Greek mythology. Far above the cities, fields, and seas of the ancient world rises Mount Olympus. In stories told for centuries by the Greeks, this mountain was considered the home of the gods. But tonight will not be a tale of adventure. There will be no battles, no monsters, no dramatic events. Instead, you will simply observe a peaceful night on Olympus. The sky is clear. Stars shine quietly above the highest peaks. Below the mountain, thick layers of clouds resemble a vast white ocean stretching toward the horizon. The air feels cool, calm, almost motionless. Before you stand great palaces built from white marble. Their columns rise many feet above the polished floors. Torchlight reflects softly across the pale stone. Everything appears quiet, ordered, eternally stable. And as the night slowly unfolds, you begin your journey through this legendary place. A place where even time itself seems to move more slowly. You begin walking along a broad marble pathway that crosses the gardens and courtyards of Olympus. The surface beneath your feet is perfectly smooth. Centuries seem to have left no mark upon the stone. On both sides of the path stand rows of carefully aligned columns. Torches placed between them create soft circles of golden light. The shadows remain gentle. Nothing feels threatening. Nothing feels urgent. The pathway gradually leads toward the center of the celestial complex. As you continue, you begin to notice the remarkable scale of the architecture. Each column rises many feet into the air. Each staircase is broad. Every space seems designed to inspire order and tranquility. Above you, moonlight illuminates the white marble rooftops. Small silver reflections appear across the polished stone. The result is a constant blend of golden torchlight and cool lunar light. A gentle illumination, balanced, relaxing. As you continue walking, the silence becomes one of Olympus's most noticeable features. A peaceful silence, a deep silence, as though the entire mountain is resting beneath the calm glow of the night. In the distance, one of the largest structures on Olympus dominates the landscape. The great palace associated with Zeus rises above the others. Its facade displays dozens of columns arranged in perfect symmetry. The steps leading toward the main entrance extend a considerable distance. Despite its size, the building does not feel overwhelming. Instead, beneath the moonlight, it appears quiet, almost contemplative. The marble walls reflect gentle tones of silver and gold. No movement disturbs the calm surroundings. Only the torchlight flickers slowly. In Greek mythology, Zeus was often described as the ruler of Olympus. But tonight, there are no divine assemblies and no extraordinary events. Only architecture, light, space, and silence. As you observe the structure, you begin to understand how the ancient Greeks imagined their gods living within orderly and harmonious surroundings. Wide spaces, carefully planned environments, places free from the noise of the world below. And during this peaceful night, that sense of order seems to spread across the entire mountain. Leaving the palace grounds behind, you arrive at the gardens of Olympus. They extend across broad areas between the marble buildings. Small pathways cross carefully maintained lawns. Tall trees rise quietly toward the star-filled sky. Among them stand carved stone fountains. Water flows slowly, creating a steady and relaxing sound. It is not loud, nor demanding, only a gentle murmur accompanying the night. The moon reflects across the calm surfaces of ornamental pools. Small ripples alter the reflections for a moment. Then everything returns to stillness. The gardens seem designed for contemplation, for slow walks, for quiet moments. As you continue along one of the pathways, you realize that Olympus is not merely a collection of palaces. It is also a place of open spaces, of balance, of visual harmony. Everything appears carefully arranged, as though every tree, every fountain, and every pathway occupies exactly the right place. Now you arrive at a broad terrace built along the edge of one of Olympus's high elevations. Before you there is no city, no forest, no road, only clouds. Thousands upon thousands of clouds spread below the mountain. Beneath the moonlight, they resemble a motionless ocean. Gentle waves stretch as far as the eye can see. The horizon nearly disappears. Sky and clouds seem to merge together. The marble railing feels cool beneath your hand. Its surface appears carefully crafted by the artisans imagined in ancient Greek stories. Everything here conveys permanence, stability, longevity. You remain quietly observing the landscape, without hurry, without purpose, simply watching. The wind moves very gently at this altitude, just enough to stir the air around the columns. As the moon continues its slow journey across the sky, you realize that this night on Olympus is made of simple elements: stone, light, clouds, silence, and the slow, steady passage of time. After spending a few moments observing the vast sea of clouds below the mountain, your attention gradually returns to the interior of one of Olympus's great structures. Passing through a wide marble entrance, you discover a hall that seems to stretch an impressive distance into the night. Columns stand in long, perfectly organized rows. Each one shares similar proportions, similar height, similar spacing. The result is an immediate feeling of order. The floor has been polished until it carries a soft glow. Torchlight reflects across the pale stone and creates repeating patterns of light throughout the room. Nothing appears accidental. The ancient Greeks deeply valued the idea of harmony, and in this imagined place, that harmony seems present in every detail. The spaces are wide, the distances are balanced. The visual elements repeat with remarkable consistency. As you walk slowly through the hall, your footsteps seem absorbed by the environment itself. There is no sharp echo, no distracting noise, only silence, a comfortable silence, a silence that invites contemplation. And as the night continues unfolding across Mount Olympus, this vast hall remains motionless beneath a peaceful blend of golden torchlight and silver moonlight. At the end of the great hall, you discover a quiet library. Marble shelves extend along the walls. Upon them rest hundreds of carefully stored scrolls. Some appear new. Others seem as though they have remained there for countless years. Torchlight moves gently across the organized cylinders. None are being read at this hour of the night. The library rests in complete silence. In the imagination of the ancient Greeks, knowledge held great value. Poetry, observations of the stars, philosophical reflections, historical accounts, all could find a place within spaces like this. You walk slowly between the shelves, observing the details, the carved niches, the smaller columns supporting the aisles, the geometric patterns engraved into the stone. Nothing appears overly elaborate, Yet everything conveys stability. As the night progresses, the library remains exactly as it has been for hours. Organized, silent, peaceful, as though patiently waiting for the arrival of morning. Leaving the library behind, you arrive at a broad platform open to the sky. From this elevated place, the stars seem closer than anywhere else. Above you, thousands of points of light shine quietly. Constellations form familiar shapes for observers of the ancient world. The Greeks devoted much time to watching the heavens, the movement of stars, the phases of the moon, the changing seasons. All were observed carefully. Upon this platform stand simple instruments designed to assist those observations. Stone structures, markers carved into flat surfaces, devices used to follow the slow movements of celestial bodies. None of them move. None of them produce sound. All remain motionless beneath the moonlight. You rest gently against a marble railing. The air remains cool. The clouds continue stretching below the mountain, and the sky feels endlessly vast. As you watch the stars continuing their silent journey, the minutes seem to lengthen, as though the night itself wishes to slow down. Your walk continues through another collection of quiet courtyards. In this section of Olympus, the architecture displays slightly different proportions. The columns appear more delicate. The decorations are more restrained. The fountains occupy central positions within the open spaces. Water continues flowing slowly, always at the same pace, always creating the same gentle sound. The repetition becomes almost hypnotic. The pools reflect the moon overhead. Small ripples temporarily alter the image. Then everything returns to stillness. You notice marble benches arranged throughout the gardens. None are occupied. No conversations take place. The entire area seems deeply at rest beneath the night sky. The Greeks often associated different parts of Olympus with different gods. But tonight, you find no ceremonies, no gatherings, no important events, only peaceful spaces. Carefully maintained gardens, flowing water, moonlit stone, and a constant feeling of serenity. Now you arrive at one of the great staircases of Olympus. It rises gradually toward the higher levels of the mountain. The steps are wide, deep, designed to be climbed without hurry. As you ascend, you notice how each landing provides a new view of the structures spread across the mountain. The marble rooftops reflect the moonlight. Torches create small golden points scattered throughout the landscape. In the distance, the clouds continue forming a white ocean beneath the palaces. The contrast between stone, light, and sky remains constant. And it is precisely that consistency that makes the environment feel so relaxing. Nothing changes quickly. Nothing demands immediate attention. Everything follows its own rhythm. A slow rhythm, a steady rhythm, a predictable rhythm. Reaching one of the upper landings, you pause briefly. You observe the landscape. You breathe the cool night air. And you realize that Mount Olympus seems to exist beyond the concerns of the ordinary world. Here there is only silence, architecture, light, and the slow passage of time beneath a sky filled with stars. Leaving the great staircase behind, you arrive at a series of elevated terraces stretching across the upper slopes of Olympus. These spaces seem designed simply for contemplating the landscape. Long rows of columns define the edges of the platforms. Between them, wide open areas provide uninterrupted views of the clouds spread beneath the mountain. Moonlight slowly travels across the white marble. Small reflections appear and disappear as your position changes during your walk. Nothing happens quickly. Everything follows the same slow rhythm that governs this night. The terraces are spacious. Some extend for hundreds of feet. Others connect through open passageways crossing different parts of the mountain. As you walk through them, you begin to notice how the ancient Greeks often associated architecture with balance. Straight lines, harmonious proportions, carefully organized spaces. While observing the horizon covered in silver clouds, a feeling of serenity seems to fill the entire environment. There is no hurry, only the quiet companionship of the moon, the columns, and the night sky. Your walk brings you to an enormous banquet hall. At this hour of the night, the room is completely empty. Long marble tables remain arranged in perfectly aligned rows. No meals are being served. No celebrations are taking place. Only silence. The space is vast. Columns rise toward a ceiling decorated with geometric patterns inspired by Greek art. The torches remain lit, yet their flames burn gently, without hurry, without commotion. As you move through the hall, you notice the repetition of the architectural elements. Table after table, column after column, arch after arch. That repetition creates a surprisingly relaxing feeling. Everything appears predictable, stable, ordered. The ancient Greeks deeply valued hospitality. And even empty, this hall seems to convey a welcoming atmosphere, as though it is always prepared to receive guests. But tonight it rests, silent, motionless, simply waiting patiently for the arrival of a new day on Mount Olympus. Leaving the hall behind, you arrive at a central courtyard dominated by a large marble fountain. Water flows continuously, always at the same pace, always producing the same gentle sound. The movement is so steady that it quickly becomes part of the environment itself. The surface of the water reflects the moon overhead. Small ripples spread slowly outward. None seem in any hurry to reach the edges of the fountain. The carvings in the stone reveal leaves, flowers, and geometric patterns inspired by nature. Even in the dim light, the craftsmanship remains visible. You spend a few moments watching the water, perhaps a few minutes, perhaps longer. Here on Olympus, time seems to lose its importance. The sound of water, the glow of the moon, the distant flicker of torchlight. Together they create an atmosphere of remarkable peace, an atmosphere that seems designed to slow the mind itself. And while the fountain continues its quiet flow, the night advances gently across the mountain of the gods. Beyond the courtyards and marble structures, you discover an area filled with olive trees. The trees grow in organized rows. Their trunks display twisting forms shaped by the passage of time. The leaves softly reflect the moonlight. Small silver highlights appear across the foliage, then disappear, then return once more. The air carries a gentle and pleasant scent. Nothing strong, only a subtle presence accompanying your walk. Olive trees played an important role in everyday life throughout ancient Greece. Their cultivation required patience, planning, careful observation of the seasons. Perhaps that is why they seem to fit so naturally within the peaceful atmosphere of this night. You walk slowly among the trees, observing the shadows cast upon the ground, listening only to the distant sound of water and the soft breeze. The landscape itself seems at rest. as though all of nature is participating in the same silence that surrounds Mount Olympus. The night has advanced considerably. The moon now stands high above Olympus. Its light spreads across rooftops, columns, staircases, and gardens. Everything appears wrapped in a uniform silver glow. The shadows have softened. The contrasts have diminished. The entire landscape has taken on a peaceful and serene appearance. You pause for a few moments in one of the mountain's elevated areas. From there, much of the celestial complex becomes visible. The palaces, the courtyards, the fountains, the open galleries. Everything remains silent. No activity interrupts the calm of the night. Only the slow movement of the moon across the sky marks the passage of time. As you observe the scene, it becomes easy to understand why so many stories associated Olympus with stability and order. Nothing feels chaotic. Nothing feels disorganized. Everything occupies its place. Everything follows its rhythm. And throughout this long night, that sense of balance continues spreading quietly across the mountain. As the night moves into its quietest hours, you continue along a long open gallery that follows one side of Mount Olympus. The corridor seems to stretch for a remarkable distance. Arch after arch, column after column, everything arranged in a perfectly organized sequence. Moonlight passes through the open spaces between the columns and casts gentle patterns across the marble floor. The shapes repeat endlessly, almost like a visual melody. Nothing changes quickly. Nothing demands attention. Only the peaceful repetition of architectural lines. The ancient Greeks often associated beauty with proportion and balance. Within this gallery, that philosophy seems to take physical form. Every distance appears carefully measured. Every column occupies exactly the right place. Every detail contributes to a general feeling of harmony. As you walk slowly, you notice how predictable environments naturally encourage relaxation. There are no surprises, no urgency, only continuity. And on this night atop Olympus, that continuity feels as constant as the stars shining quietly above the mountain. At the end of the gallery, you discover another garden. This one feels even quieter than the previous ones. Small flower beds are arranged in geometric patterns. Pale blossoms reflect the moonlight. Marble pathways cross the space in gentle, symmetrical lines. Not a single leaf seems to move. The wind has nearly disappeared. The atmosphere is so peaceful that every detail appears suspended in time. You observe the designs created by the pathways, the shapes of the plants, the careful distribution of empty spaces between the flower beds. Everything conveys planning, patience, stability. The Greeks often associated gardens with contemplation and balance, places where thought could slow down, where simply observing nature became enough. As you walk slowly through the garden, you notice the night itself becoming deeper, quieter, softer, and Mount Olympus continues resting above the clouds, wrapped in a calm that is almost impossible to describe. You arrive at a broad balcony built near one of the highest points of the mountain. From this location, the sky seems to occupy almost the entire landscape. The clouds remain below, the stars remain above, and you find yourself positioned between those two worlds. A marble railing extends along the full length of the balcony. Its surface remains cool beneath the night air. In the distance, familiar constellations continue their slow and predictable movements. Nothing accelerates. Nothing interrupts the rhythm. The same stars observed by the ancient Greeks continue crossing the sky. In the same way, in the same silence, you rest gently against the stone and observe the view, minute after minute, perhaps without even noticing the passage of time. In a place like this, any feeling of urgency completely disappears. There is only observation. There is only presence. There is only the quiet companionship of the stars. And as the moon continues its slow journey above Olympus, the world seems to become more peaceful with every passing moment. Your walk leads you into a small temple. Compared to the great palaces of Olympus, this structure feels modest. Yet its simplicity creates a unique sense of peace. The roof contains a central opening. Through it, moonlight enters softly. A silver circle illuminates part of the floor. Around it, columns support the structure in complete silence. The air remains cool, calm, motionless. You observe the details of the building, the carefully polished surfaces, the symmetrical lines, the balanced proportions. Everything appears designed to endure. Ancient builders valued structures that conveyed stability. And even in this imagined setting, that intention remains obvious. You remain inside the temple for several moments, without thinking about anything specific, simply observing the interaction of stone, light, and shadow. A simple combination, yet an extraordinarily relaxing one. Meanwhile, the night continues its slow progression across Mount Olympus. The night has now reached one of its deepest phases. Much of Olympus remains immersed in complete silence. The palaces continue glowing with small golden flames. The columns continue reflecting the moonlight. The clouds remain spread beneath the mountain, and the stars continue their slow journey across the sky. Very little has changed throughout the past several hours, and that is precisely what makes the environment feel so relaxing. The repetition of familiar elements creates a constant sense of stability. The same light, the same pathways, the same structures, the same gentle sounds. Everything remains exactly where it belongs. You observe the landscape once more. The outlines of the buildings, the lines of the staircases, the open galleries, the silent gardens. Every part of Olympus appears to rest beneath a uniform layer of tranquility, as though the mountain itself has fallen asleep. And as the early hours of morning slowly approach, the serenity of this place continues surrounding every detail of the celestial landscape. The hours continue passing slowly over Mount Olympus. At some point during the early morning, nearly imperceptible changes begin appearing in the sky. The stars remain visible, yet some seem slightly less bright than before. The moon still illuminates the palaces. The columns continue reflecting silver tones, and the gardens remain as quiet as they have been throughout the entire night. You walk through an open area connecting several structures. The marble floor stretches ahead in gentle lines. The shadows have become slightly softer, not because of any sudden change, but because the night continues its journey toward dawn. Nothing happens quickly. Everything unfolds gradually. Mount Olympus seems to honor that rhythm, as though the mountain itself understands that the most peaceful changes are the ones that happen slowly. As you observe the sky above the columns, you realize that morning is approaching, still distant, still quiet, yet unmistakably present, and the entire landscape remains wrapped in the same sense of peace that has accompanied the night from the very beginning. You return to one of Olympus's great central courtyards. Now, beneath the gentle light of early morning, the space feels slightly different. The architectural details become easier to see. The lines of the columns stand out more clearly. The carvings in the marble slowly emerge from the shadows. The fountain at the center of the courtyard continues operating exactly as before. The water maintains the same rhythm, the same sound, the same tranquility. Nothing appears to have changed in its quiet routine. As you observe the courtyard, it becomes clear that most of this night has been composed of small repetitions. Light, stone, water, clouds, silence, simple elements, constant elements, predictable elements. Perhaps that predictability is what makes the environment feel so relaxing. Nothing demands attention. Nothing interrupts your thoughts. Everything simply exists, calmly, patiently. And during this hour before dawn, Mount Olympus seems more serene than ever. Very slowly, the horizon begins to change. There is no exact moment when night ends. No specific instant when day begins. The transition unfolds gradually, almost unnoticed. A faint blue tone appears above the clouds. Light slowly spreads across the sky. The marble palaces begin reflecting new shades. The silver glow of the moon blends with the first signs of morning. The columns remain motionless. The gardens remain silent. The fountains continue flowing. Everything remains stable. Yet the changing light gently transforms the landscape. You observe this gradual shift, without hurry, without expectation, simply following the natural rhythm of dawn. For thousands of years, people have watched similar sunrises, changing slowly, without noise, without spectacle, simply light replacing darkness. And on this morning above Olympus, the process continues in the same calm and predictable way. Morning draws ever closer. The darkness of night no longer dominates the sky. A soft brightness spreads across the terraces, gardens, and palaces. The marble surfaces reflect delicate, pale tones. The entire mountain seems to awaken slowly. Yet even this awakening occurs without agitation. Everything continues following the same peaceful rhythm. The fountains maintain their steady flow. The columns remain silent. The clouds continue resting below the peaks. As you observe the landscape, you realize that the entire night has been defined by stability. There was no hurry, no interruptions, no sudden changes, only the slow passage of hours. Perhaps that is one reason why imagined places like Olympus remain so fascinating. They represent an idealized vision of order, of balance, of continuity. And as morning gradually spreads across the mountain, that feeling remains present in every detail around you. And now, morning has finally arrived on Mount Olympus. The moon slowly fades before the growing brightness of the sky. The stars become harder and harder to see. The palaces glow beneath the first light of day. The gardens reveal their details. The fountains continue their peaceful flow. The columns remain motionless, exactly as they have been throughout the entire night. Throughout this journey, you walked through silent corridors. You observed terraces above the clouds. You listened to the gentle sound of water. You followed the slow passage of hours beneath a sky filled with stars. Nothing extraordinary happened. And perhaps that is the most comforting part of this story. A night composed only of calm, of repetition, of silence, of stability. Now, As the golden light of morning slowly spreads across the mountain, you may allow your own mind to follow that same rhythm. Slow, gentle, peaceful, like the clouds resting below the peaks, like the water gliding through marble fountains, like Mount Olympus itself standing serenely above the world. And so, surrounded by the quietness of the heavens, the simple beauty of ancient architecture, and the slow arrival of morning, your journey comes to an end. Good night, and sleep deeply.